So this is Baruch here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and the shir today starts out with a view, a map of the Jews in the Arabian Peninsula beginning of the 7th century. Now what we were talking about previously was the war that was taking place between the Persians, it's all in the same area, and the Byzantines. But at the very end, as we got to the year approximately 628, 629, Islam was growing and becoming fiercely powerful. And that's where we were left before. So now let me see, where's my pencil? Okay. Take this one. So now we're just going to take a quick look, and let me see if I can get down here lower so we can see it, at the situation in Arabia at more or less the same time. Where were Jewish settlements? Now he writes over here that we want to see a little bit of these. So he says the dotted line, as we're going to see, represents trade routes. Now we all know that Arabia is a desert place. So he says these are areas that are marked in blue where it rains. So we see that really around the coast of the Red Sea, it's really the main place. And after that, it's mostly, I guess you would say, just desert and sand. Then coming up over here to Israel, once again, you see that there's rain that falls in that area. So now we have an idea of the dryness of the place, but the fact that the Jews managed to survive. Now, also as well, let me see if I can swing this over here a little bit. How do I do this? Well, anyway, do the best I can. Is that the lighter color here is oases. There are oases, a place where there are wells and there's prosperity. And then the rest is all sand. That's the area. So we see here over Ethiopia over here, the Red Sea. And down below we have the Arabian Sea, Persian Gulf. These are names that we've all heard of, Gulf of Oman. But we're talking about, what, 1,300 years ago, 1,400 years ago. So he says, look around here, in any place that has a Jewish star, a Mogen David, is places where there were Jewish communities. So here at the very top, and this area is all considered, I guess, to be Arabia at this time. It was Baghdad up at the top, which is the area of the two rivers. Then Ctesiphon, so some of the names that we heard in the last year. Pumbedita is a very famous Talmudic center. Surah, another one. Palmyra, all of these places are places where Torah was studied. Then now you're over into Syria and Damascus. This is all part of Arabia. And then some other places that we mentioned. All of these, of course, in Israel, there were Jewish centers. And Medina. Well, I'm looking for Mecca here. I know that it's in here, but I'm not seeing it really. Maghdad, Madian, Mecca, Medina. I only see Medina. I thought Mecca. Here's Mecca. Okay. Mecca's on the Persian Gulf. So you get an idea of what was going on. We could go through the different places. Is Aden, which is, of course, we have many Yemenite Jews that come from there today. So we're going to read a little bit, because now the struggle of the Jews, the survival of the Jews through the Middle Ages is moving along. And now we're coming over to this, and let me just try to rearrange my desk here a little bit so that I can see this and you can see it too. Okay. Here we're at a place, right? It says Muhammad's Wars Against the Jews. The years 1623 and 629. So here we go like this. Muhammad had hoped to convert these settlers. What settlers? I think it starts down here. It's my mistake. So I think it starts down here. So he said, we know very little about the beginnings of Jewish settlement in the Arabian Peninsula. It seems that the Jews began to live in oases, in urban centers in the first centuries of CE, that is in the Common Era. The settlers engaged in agriculture and commerce and were organized in clans, or according to some scholars, tribal groups. Now these are Jews we're talking about. Their agriculture consisted mainly of date groves. While in commerce, they developed the credit system and the crafts. They were blacksmiths, gold and silversmiths, and expert armor makers. Various families were identified by their occupation. The story is told that Muhammad used to buy goods on credit from the Jews. It was very interesting. The credit system was created way back then here, because you'll see that when we get into Europe, even 700 years later, 700 years would be right. Yeah. Europe is still backwards looking for money changers. I mean, they didn't have a credit system. Medina had a concentration of Jewish tribes. Among the large ones were the Banu, listen to these names, Banu Nadir, Quraiza, Kainuga, and some who claimed to be of priestly descent called Kahinan, which is the word for priest in Hebrew is Kohen. Their strongholds were greater in number than those of the Arabs. The Khyber Jews resided about 100 kilometers north of Medina district, and it is possible that this Jewish settlement was larger than Medina. In other words, in spite of the vicissitudes in their fortune, the Khyber community played an important role in the history of the Jewish people. The Jewish settlements in the Wadi al-Qura and other oases, such as Fadak and Taima, now all these names are, well, they're like Arabic to me, served as asylums for the refugees from southern Arabia after the death of the Nuas, which, remember, we talked about the Himyars, and there was actually a Jewish kingdom in Arabia, in the southern part of Arabia. Jewish residents settled in these areas in proximity to Nordic Bedouin tribes and to the Nadirs, who were sedentary farmers. In spite of the influence of these two groups, the Jews persevered in their own special way of life and did not become nomads like the Bedouins, who changed their abode twice a year. Now, coming to Muhammad. Muhammad had hoped to convert these settlers, talking about the Jews now. Whoops, I'm making a mistake here. Wait a minute, I'm making a big mistake. Okay, wait a minute. Something, technical problem there. Muhammad had hoped to convert these settlers, but ultimately, realizing that he would never succeed, he declared a war of extinction against them. So you see that the Jews are isolated in different places. Of course, there are places where there's prosperity, places where there's rain, places where there's an oasis, a possibility to get involved in trade and develop their guilds or their groups. It says, but the relations between Muhammad and the Jews deteriorated because he saw that they weren't converting, especially after his victory over Abu Jahl of Mecca in the second year of the Hegira. I guess the Hegira is the Holy War. He now turned against his enemies in Medina, besieging the stronghold of the Jewish clan of Kainuga and forcing them into exile. He kicked them out. The Kainuga went by way of Wadi al-Qura. You have to find these places, and we'll try to pick it up on this little map over here on the side. He said to Transjordan and settled in Edrei. Arab sources number the size of the clan as 750 people that were kicked out of Medina, excluding women and children. So in other words, it's probably 2,000. In 627, after an unsuccessful siege by the Meccans against Medina, Muhammad turned against the Jewish clan of Quraiza and forced them to surrender unconditionally. The Quraiza had hoped for mercy and protection from their allies in Muhammad's camp, but Muhammad was determined to destroy them. Now this, once again, we have an Uncle Ismail. We are now dealing with the Jews that are left in his control, in his countries. And we also have another brother, twin brother, Esau, who's taken over Rome, spreading Christianity throughout the world, and ultimately will use that to fight us, to make it very hard on us. So he says, so the Jews were always looking for allies in Muhammad's camp, but Muhammad was determined to destroy them. The fate of the Jews of Khyber was different from that of the other Jewish clans. They sought allies amongst the Bedouin tribes of the south, but Muhammad succeeded in winning the Bedouin over to his side. In 629, now here we are, after a siege, the Jews of Khaybar turned to Muhammad and sued for peace. Muhammad, apparently weary of war, agreed to a proposal whereby the Jews were allowed to remain on their land on condition that they paid an annual tax of 1/2 of their date harvest. That's a lot. According to the Hadith, which I'm not sure what that is, this agreement on the distribution of the spoils served as a model for the conquest of Omar. So this Hadith is apparently a declaration of exactly how things should be done and divvied up when they conquer a land. This may explain and justify Omar's methods in conquest. Now, let's just take a look at this map. This map is a map of the city of Medina. Now, we just heard that Medina was in war between Medina and different places and ultimately conquered by Muhammad. He says, these are the great mosque is over here. There's apparently a wadi down on that side. There's a cemetery. These names do not impress me. I don't know them. Here apparently is an area of a lot of date palms all over the south part, because you see that this, once again, you have some rain that pops up in this part of Medina. Then you come up over here, so we said the rest of the city. Here's the market area, and there's a fortress, and etc., etc. That's the city. I don't know that much more about it. Let's come over here and see if we can pick up something. And always when we come over to these maps, I'm going to bring this down lower, and hopefully we can see it better. Okay, we pretty much got it. So let's take a look at it. This is the year 623. Muhammad defeats Qurayza clan. That's a Jewish clan that exists. That was in the year 623. That's find number 2. The year 624. Muhammad's men besiege let me see if I can't see it that well. Kainuga clan. They do this for 15 days. They defeat them and force them to withdraw from the city. Number 3, the Kainuga clan. So we have these arrows. The arrows must mean something. They clan from Medina, sojourn, in other words, they travel, about a month at Al-Qura. In other words, they spend some time in this place called Al-Qura before continuing northward and settling at Adre. So they're going like this. Al-Qura here, and moving up north. I don't know if Adre is on the map. So number 4, the Nadir clan, also banished from the city. They flee to Khaybar. Khaybar. Here is Khaybar. So they move from here, from Medina. This is destruction. Apparently there's a very large Jewish community in Medina. So that was number 4. Let's look up for number 5. Here's number 5. In the year 627, Qurayza clan promises terms of surrender after 25 days of siege, but Muhammad declines. Once again, the Qurayza clan, 25 days of siege, but Muhammad declines. About 600 men are executed. Women and children were all sold into slavery. This is our cousin Muhammad. The year 629, Muhammad conquers Khaybar, but agrees to Jewish peace proposal, which allows Jews to remain on their land, but to forfeit half of the crops as a tax. This is Baruch Fleischman, Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and we've managed to make it to the year 629.